Welcome back to Wisdom for Wealth TV. I'm Lelo and I'm joined by my co-host, my friend Lindo. Lindo, say hey.
Hey, hello, Lelo. Good to be back for another book review.
Yeah, awesome, guys. So last month we started something called the Wisdom for Wealth Book of the Month, where we covered a book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So
Yeah.
this month we're back with another installment of the book review, and we are reviewing Rabbi Daniel Lapin's book called Thou Shalt Prosper: The Ten Commandments of Making Money. So I don't know what form or shape you listen to a book. Some people read a book, some people listen to a book. I've been listening to this particular book, and I think it's a really insightful book. It's a book that I think we've learned a lot from. And
Yeah.
in today's conversation, we're going to lead you through some of the stuff that we've learned. What did we see? What really stood out for us. But given the fact that last time was our first book review, we were a bit long-winded. We really went over time, but I think we're learning. We're learning as we go along. So I hope that you guys will watch the previous episode if you have read The Psychology of Money, and that hopefully this particular conversation is not going to be as long because I think now we're getting the hang of things. But
We're getting the hang
just
of
maybe
it.
to give you a bit of background about the author, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, he was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1947. He then moved to the United States in 1973. And I think what really makes this book special is that it's not just a book of financial wisdom, right? And I think that's important. So we'll speak about the financial wisdom. He speaks about the business wisdom, but he also brings the spiritual aspect, right? Now, I don't need to remind you, but the Jewish part, the Jewish sect, if that's the correct word to use, the Jewish sect of society in any society is notorious for being some of the most successful people with money and in business. So
Sure.
when we're thinking about learning about money and building wealth and just learning the principles of wealth creation, I don't think there's a sect of people that can teach us um, a whole lot of great stuff like Jewish people can. So I think that this is a great book that we can all learn from. Part of the
Sure.
reason that we chose this book is, you know, firstly because like I said, we really get a lot of spiritual insights, right? We get to understand from the Torah perspective, from the Bible, I'll say, in our terms, what does God have to say about money, right? What makes Jewish people so successful? And I think we chose that book specifically for that. I think as a person of faith and as a person that wasn't really taught how to do money within the church, I think this book is something that's really helpful in terms of just rewiring how I see money as a Christian. Because I think, I was taught how to tithe, but I wasn't taught how to be a faithful steward over the 90%. And I think a lot of people can relate to, not knowing what to do when it comes to giving, but not knowing what to do when it comes to stewardship. And I think this is a great book that can help us make some strides in terms of that. But I also think we chose this book because it really coincides with what we stand for as Wisdom for Wealth. So if
Sure.
you read the book, you'll notice that he doesn't just talk about finances, right? So he'll speak about the
Yeah.
spiritual aspect, which is a pillar for us. He'll speak about, relationships, which is important. I mean, he even goes into, looking at how money is a representation of us, right? So the whole human being. So he doesn't compartmentalize money making with a person's life. And I think that really speaks to what we stand for as Wisdom for Wealth. And so there's a lot that you can learn from this book. I don't know if there's anything that would have made you choose this book, Lindo, that you want to cover.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, but I think you've covered most of the things. Daniel Lapin, or should we call him Rabbi Daniel Lapin, comes with this spiritual aspect, right? The religious aspect that comes from the Torah, it comes from the Talmud. It's 3,000 years of wisdom and things that have been practiced for, quite a long time, and you find that it has been tested and it has been proven to be true. You mentioned that the Jewish sect of people are seen as disproportionately successful in any society that you go into in the world. So you then ask yourself, "Futhi, hold on, how does that happen? Is there anything that we can like learn from or learn about that type of financial system so that we can better ourselves as well?" And what I like about the book is the rabbi essentially also just admits to that, in a lot of his interviews. When you go online, he actually admits that Jewish people are actually disproportionately successful in business. And it's not a if you look at the numbers, it's right there. It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism or anything of that nature. It's just getting to understand and getting to learn and be educated so that we can all be well financially, and we know that our wellness within the financial aspect of our life contributes to the wellness in other areas of our lives as well. So for me, I think everybody should read this book. It doesn't really have to be a you don't have to be a Jew to read this book. You don't have to be a Christian to read this book. If you are in a position to, get this book, whatever medium that tickles your fancy, read this book. It'll really, really, really um, open you up to certain things that are quite vital when it comes to money. And it, you will see that the things that we are talking about like wisdom for wealth, we're not crazy when we're saying, money is one of the aspect. It's not one of the important aspect of money. And when you go through all these, I think I should just go through the topics as well, while I'm on this
Yeah,
conversation. When you
go
go
ahead.
through,
What are the top
yeah,
10? Well, what are the,
when you go through
yeah, what are the 10
all of them,
commandments? Yeah, what
when
are
you
they? What
go
are the 10
through
commandments when it comes to money?
Cool. No, so he provides like the 10 commandments of making money, right? Which, as we have mentioned, are taken from the Talmud, are taken from the oral Torah, are taken from the written Torah. It's something that has been practiced within the Jewish community for over 3,000 years. The first commandment is believe in the dignity and morality of business. The second one is extend the network of your connectedness. The third one is getting to know yourself. The fourth one is do not pursue perfection. The fifth one, lead consistently and constantly. The sixth one is constantly change the changeable while steadfastly learning to foretell the future. Is that it? Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's the
No, no, no.
seventh one.
While
Learn to,
steadfastly.
yeah, steadfast while being steadfast. And then the seventh one is learn to foretell the future. The eighth one is know your money. And then the ninth one, you were referring to it a bit in your introduction, is give away 10% of your income after tax or tax. And then the last one, the one that is quite, you know, relevant to the both of us. Not really relevant, but something that we quite admire. Never retire. Never retire. But yeah, Lele, you can maybe take me through the ones that you like. I don't know which of the 10 commandments do you like. We will have different ones that we like. The people that read the book will also like others and or be more drawn to others because I think they're all important, but there's one or two that you could be drawn into more than the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Lindo. I think the one that stood out most for me is the first commandment. The first commandment, like you
Ah,
said, is believe in the dignity and the morality of money. And there's
got
several
you.
reasons I think this is important, but I think the most important reason for me loving this commandment is that it's really a chapter about mindset, right? It's helping people who
Yes,
read this, get the mindset around money and how to make it. Because it's very difficult to be successful at doing something if you demonize that thing, right? And unfortunately, I know for me and the way that I was raised and the way that money was taught to me or not taught to me made me believe certain things about money that made it hard for me to automatically be successful, right? And I love this book
Yeah.
because for me it gives me perspective in terms of how the Jewish child is taught to see money from a very young age, right? So I love how he opens up this chapter and he's asking, you do want more money, don't you? And I think that's a very, it's a
Don't
very
you?
tricky question because when somebody asks you, do you want more money? Right? You kind of
Mm,
like, is that a trick question? Right? And if if you were taught that money, it's not a good thing to want more money, you're being ungrateful,
mm,
you're materialistic, then you sort of struggle to answer that question, right? You sort of are like, maybe I want to be content with what I have. But I love how he introduces the book and he says it's a good thing for you to want more money, right? And he says, when you admit that you want more money, he says, people who admit that they want more money become uniquely useful to the society that they live in, right? Because you
mm.
admitting that you want more money is you saying that you're willing to learn how to meet other people's needs. You're willing to learn how to solve other people's problems so that they can pay you in return. And I think for me, that's a great introduction into the book, into an understanding of what business is all about, because business is not just about making profit. Business is really
Yeah,
about us serving one another. And then
absolutely.
the money that we receive from the transactions is really the proof, the receipt to say, this person has served me, therefore I reciprocate by giving them a certain amount of money. Okay?
Exactly.
So I think he covers that really well. But there's something else that really stood out about this commandment to me. And I think if you're a believer like me, and you've been within the church, whether you grew up in church, whether you joined the church as you grew, depending on which part of the church you come from, you might have a bit of a struggle with money and being comfortable admitting that you want more money, right? We
Mm,
already know that there's scriptures like, the love of money is the root of all evil, which I believe has been taken out of context for so long, right?
mm,
But this book, he's got a subsection in this first commandment that he says, gold is good, God said so. And for me, that was amazing because, he speaks about how in the first 7 days of creation in the book of Genesis, God makes the world, and every time he makes, after a certain day, after he's created a certain thing, God steps back and he says, this is good, right? And then he moves
yeah,
on, right? And it says,
yeah.
the next time you hear the word good used in the book of
Mm,
Genesis is when God is describing gold. And that's
mm,
that's mind-boggling because we know that gold is like the premium. How do I say this, right? It's almost like gold is like this ultimate medium of exchange, right? It's viewed as this eternal symbol of wealth and money, right? The Bible says there's streets of gold in heaven, right? The Bible says,
mm,
God says silver and gold are his, declares the Lord. So he speaks about how God says gold is good. And that's an important thing to look
true.
at because Jewish children are reading the Torah since for as early as they can read, they're reading the Torah and they are being told that God calls gold good. And when God calls gold good, what that actually means is that God says money is a good thing. Wealth is a good thing. And that's an important mindset
True.
shift to make if you're going to want to make money. You can't demonize money.
Mm,
You can't look at money as evil and then think that you're going to be successful at making it, right? So he makes an amazing point where he says Jewish people have this monthly prayer that they make that they say on the eve of a new moon. And he says they feel comfortable asking God not just for health and peace, but also for money. And they ask for
mhm,
money because they understand that when they ask God for wealth and for money, they are indirectly also asking God for the opportunity to be able to meet other people's needs because that's how
absolutely.
money is created, right? And I think it's a beautiful explanation in terms of understanding how money is created. If you want to learn how to create wealth, you are going to have to be proficient at understanding how to meet other people's needs. So that's one of my favorites. I don't know what you think about that one, Lindo.
Wow. No, I think that is quite the one. I it's really a nice icebreaker. It ties in really well. I think I'm sure there's also like some myths that he dispels within that. I'm not gonna go into those myths around business because you look at you just look at how business is portrayed, how people who make money are portrayed. Um, when it's an NGO or a foundation of a specific business that is held at a high regard, but that same business is then held, looked at, or perceived negatively. But it's the same business that makes the money that then will take certain percentages of the profits into the foundation that then helps the people. So people look at that the foundation more as what people should be doing, but there's employees as well in this business that then feed the family. There's customers who get value, who get benefits from the products, the services that this same business is producing to give to them. So there's there has been that. I think it really helped me to dispel that myth that business is bad. Because what like you look at whatever type of movie, the Wolf of Wall Street, for instance, in a way it was thing that we're not saying that there are not people who are actually you know rotten potatoes, for lack of a better word. There are those people, but we can't generalize based on, for instance, the Wolf of Wall Street and say because we saw or we heard that Jordan Belfort did X, Y, and Z, or the guy who had the Ponzi scheme. His name is escaping me right now. And then we based the entire landscape of business based on these two people. It's quite unfair. With every other thing, with every other debate that we have, we never do that. But for some reason, when it comes to business professionals, organizations, and how we look at them and how we perceive them, and how they are perceived to us, it's it seems like fair game. It seems like fair game. So um, I think that was quite intriguing for me. The one that I
I love
liked,
that.
yeah,
I
no,
love
go
that.
ahead,
Before
go
we
ahead.
move on to that, just to seal it up, is to
Yeah,
say when it comes to wealth creation,
yeah,
there's multiple ways to build wealth, but building a
true,
business is one of the most rewarding. Like you can do investing, you can do all of the other ways of building wealth. I think all of that are important, but a business is
true,
an asset. And when we demonize business, it becomes very difficult to be able to build wealth using the asset of business,
yeah.
right? Like you can't be successful at something that you demonize. So I definitely agree with everything that you said and how movies and marketing have really just had this agenda to make us see business as a bad thing. But yeah, what was one of your favorites? Let's go there.
For me, it's very the one that really, touched my heart. Number 8, know your money. Um, yeah, there's for me personally. Let me not talk about other people. I come to realize as the more I learn about money that I actually did not really understand money. I thought I understood it to be, a digit on my banking app or some notes on my wallet or coins that I've just stuffed in a piggy bank somewhere in the house. But really, that was probably surface level understanding of what money is. I like how he uses the salmon fishing analogy. I think he's a fisher because he uses a lot of fishing analogies. He says um, an example to teach that if one is actually serious about making money, you really have to know. not just what money is, but everything around money. Where is money found? How is it generated? Who is your competition? In that example, he is fishing with this expert fisherman, right? And he's fishing, fishing, you're in a boat, in a pond, or in a lake, or in a river, and then you try fishing, and he his line catches something, so he's now trying to reel it back, and for some reason his instructor was just all nonchalant about it, and he was like, "You've lost him." And he was like, "What do you mean I've lost him? I mean, I'm reeling the line in. The thing that you should be doing right now is trying to help me." But what the rabbi did not see is that there was actually right there on the top a bird, an eagle, right? That was just waiting for it to appear just outside of the river so that it can take it, and that speaks to, who's your competition, who is doing the same thing, and really what can then be a hindrance for you to actually make that money. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be an eagle. Sometimes it's our own lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, which is something for me that I try by all means to reach and get. He said, study the craft of making money first before studying the people who have attracted the money, right? Because we have this idea, right? Okay, let me go to the Forbes list, the 400 richest people in XYZ
Yes.
country, right? But yeah, you will get the numbers, and you will get exactly their profiles and all these other beautiful things that they have done, in business and contributions to society and humanity. But really, the craft of actually making the money, now that's a different understanding of what money is. And if you understand money as, or how you get money rather, as you giving value to humanity, and then in exchange, so the pay or the profit that you receive then becomes essentially the proof that yes, I have given the value, and this value is measured according to the profits and the pay that I receive. Then now you are starting to go towards understanding the craft of actually making money. I started by saying that I thought money was, you know, digits in my banking app, notes in my wallet. But is that really money, or is that just a means of exchange, right? Because yesterday maybe the rand to the dollar was at a specific price, and today it's at a different price. So what what really is money? Is it the physical that we see, or is it just something else that we do not see? He makes an example, and this is another example that really it shifted my perception around money as well. That with God, right? God is God because he promises and he delivers, right? And for
Ooh,
some reason,
so good, so good, so good.
so there's the promise that this will be, and then he actually delivers on that promise, right? And then he makes the juxtaposition of that to what money is, that I promise you that I will give you the value, right? And I give you the value. And in return for that value, you promise me that you will reciprocate that value in accordance to exactly what we agree upon. So I promise you and I deliver. And then you on the other side as well, you promise and then you deliver. So
Mhm.
are we not then? I don't want to go deep and dissect and do hermeneutics. I might be wrong at that, but are we not then doing or being Christ-like, or we are made in His image by doing that?
100%.
So if we demonize the
Mhm.
same thing that we are made in the image of, how then do we move forward? So yeah, number eight,
True.
that commandment really, really, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. The Jewish perceptions around money,
But
but
do you know what I love
we'll
about that,
continue
Lindo?
with them. Yeah,
Do you know what I love about that? And I think what you really
yeah,
are speaking to is the element of trust,
mm,
right? That,
yeah.
and then
Let me grab
he
my water.
really hammers down. He really hammers down on how that money relationship is really undergirded with the reputation and the trust. And so it's
Absolutely.
not just about us making money, it's about us being honest and righteous and keeping
Mm,
our promises. And that
true.
money that comes to us is coming because we kept our promise. It's coming because
Hmm.
we were trustworthy enough to deliver
Exactly.
what we said we were going to deliver on. And it's beautiful to
Exactly.
see that because we just in the first commandment that I spoke about, we look at how there's myths around business and how people don't trust business people. Every time you watch a movie and they're showing you some rich person, he's also either a money launderer or he's a thief. It's never a good guy
Mm.
who's just rich, you know?
To help
But,
society.
right?
Yeah.
It's never this
Yes.
philanthropic, good stuff. So the fact that he ties
Except for the
money,
pursuit of happiness. Except for the pursuit of happiness.
that's the
Maybe let's not
point.
also generalize.
Look, yeah, look, I think it's general in the sense that it works for most,
Yeah.
not for all. But
Mm, mm,
I think for me, the way that he brings out the importance of our character, because, and I say this respectfully, some people want to be wealthy, but they're not willing to be trustworthy to do it. So, and that's why we've got
true.
this rise in Ponzi schemes, the rise in money laundering and
Mm,
cybercrime and all of that kind of stuff. And really,
true.
when we speak about how the love of money will be the root of all evil, it's not to
Mm,
say loving money is going to make you evil. It's just to say, people can become really corrupt because they just really love money that much.
mm,
So it's
mm.
not just this, we're not saying money is bad, but I just love how he brings in the importance of our character, our dignity,
Absolutely.
our reputation when it comes
Absolutely.
to making this money. Like, we can't be great at making wealth if we are not great people. Like,
You
we
know?
need to be great. We need to have the kind of character so that when we
Mm,
say we will
mm.
deliver on something, we will deliver on it. All right. I love it. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that you covered that.
Cool.
But maybe just to close up our conversation,
Yeah.
I think maybe a final one that maybe we can touch on. I mean, guys, there's lots of these commandments, so it's impossible for us to cover every single one of them. But we're just covering the ones that stood out to us. Please go read the
Yeah.
book. Comment, let
17
us know what
hours.
stood out for you. Yeah, I listened for 17 hours and I've
17
listened twice
hours
or
on
three times now
yeah.
in my life. So I've listened for quite some time. But
Mm.
let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite commandment is and what stood out to you. But maybe the final one that we're going to discuss, Lindo, is the final
Mm.
commandment. And he says,
Okay.
never retire. Thou
Let's
shalt
go for
never retire. You know,
what
and I'm
what
going
are
to
your
start
thoughts?
off, you chipping.
Okay.
When you look at mainstream teaching about the idea of work,
Mm.
we often are taught that you're going to start work after university, or just after school. You'll get into the workforce and you typically will work until the age of 65. By that time, you can go on and do whatever you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when I read this book, he's dispelling that. He's giving us a new mindset around retirement, and
Mm.
he starts off the conversation using this man, and I forget what this man's name is, who was working until the age of 78. He was making money. He was giving away a lot of it, and he was making a lot
Yeah.
of money actually. And he was giving away a substantial part of it. And he wanted to continue to do this thing. And he says there's two types of people. There's people who are going to look at this man who's working at the age of 78 and be like, hello, I don't want to work that long in my life. Like, that's pretty
Mm.
sad. And then
mm.
you'll find people who just think, yeah, that's fine, just work, 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 work. So people can be at
Yeah,
extremes. And what he's actually
absolutely.
saying in this book is come back to the center. Come
Yeah.
back to the center. And he's redefining what we call our retirement years. The thing is
Mm,
about saying when you get to the age of 65, you're going to retire. He makes this point about how life is not a destination, it's a journey,
the
right?
journey.
You don't stop when you get to
Mm,
65. You just find the next thing in your journey. And
mm,
I think for me, what really stands out about that is that it
yeah.
speaks to the idea that when you enter your elderly years, when you
Yeah.
enter the age of 65, for instance, you do not
Mm,
suddenly become useless to society. Like,
absolutely.
you don't
Yes.
stop being
Wow.
productive. This doesn't mean that you
Mm,
don't add
mm,
value. And if we look at money as a sign that I'm valuable to society,
yeah.
when you say when a person retires they can't earn anything, you are actually saying this person is no longer useful to society, which isn't true, right? When we look at the way God made us, you wouldn't be alive if there was nothing else for you to create. So he makes this point to say, when you get to retirement, don't stop because then you'll be stopping short of what you could create. He says, follow through. You might not be running at the same pace you used to. You might not be working as hard. You might not be doing what you used to do, but there's still something for you to do. You can still add
Mm,
value to other
mm,
people and
mm,
be
mm.
earning money when you get to your old
True.
years, right? And I've got a live example is that I've seen that when people are not prepared for retirement, and I'm saying this statistic because I've worked within life insurance and we used to work with people who are retiring. When people are not prepared for retirement, a lot of them, when they enter into retirement and suddenly stop working, a lot of them
Mm.
deteriorate. A lot of them get ill. A lot of them stop being as healthy as they were because they suddenly feel like they've got no value to add.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this book for me speaks to that to be like, you might not be doing what you used to do, but there's still money for you to make. You can still build
Mm.
wealth in your retirement years. You can still add value and be paid for it because you're alive for a reason, right? I don't know what your thoughts are.
Y- just to clear it out for those that have not read the book. So he's not saying there's the aspect of having a nest egg so that it matures to the time where you are 65 and whatever age that you want it to mature at. That is prudent. That is wise for you to have that nest egg and make sure that you setting money aside. It's a good financial investment, and everybody's encouraged to do that. We're not talking about that aspect of retirement, right? We're talking about the aspect of saying that a person after the determined age of retirement then becomes useless. I mean, we dispel it in our own country. You look at every other country, even look at the presidents, look at the ministers in those countries. How What are their ages, and are they before or in or after the age of retirement, and are they not still giving value? And giving
Listen,
value really, it differs. It really differs in different points. You look at the best example that I can make right now is Mr. Raymond Ackerman. He retired in 2020. Okay, he announced his retirement in 2009. Sorry, he retired in 2010. Right, that's 12, 13 years before his passing. But he, him retiring as chairman of Pick and Pay did not mean that he was not continuing being involved with the education arm of the business, with the business accelerator program that they were running as Pick and Pay, and the other philanthropic works that they were doing together with his wife. It just meant that he shifted his focus away from the role of being a chairman of Pick and Pay, the group, into these other roles that he was already doing also at that time. So By the time he retired, he essentially had other things to do, So how then can we say to people that they are useless? You look at kids. Look at kids. You have a son, Lynn, at a young age, even right now, the things that you do in front of him, he also wants to emulate. He also wants to show that he is useful. So there's no
Yeah.
start and end to usefulness. We can't say, now that you are this age, you can leave this part of school to go to this job so that you can start. That's not how we were created. Our
Not at
usefulness
all.
is embedded within us from cradle to the grave. And that's where we are talking about, or that's how we're looking at retirement, and not in the sense, Yoguti, now you mustn't have a nest egg, you mustn't invest, you mustn't put money aside for those later years. The physical body,
100%.
yes, has its own span, right, and it'll
Yes.
be active and it'll perform at its peak at certain ages of your life, and then after that
Yeah.
it starts not performing as it used to perform, which is fine. That's the nature of the body. That's how God made our bodies. They're supposed to have that, but that does not correlate with us saying that now that that happens, that you're driving slower now on the road, that you are walking slower, you're losing some skin on your body. That does not say you are no longer useful to humanity. And yes, I absolutely agree. There's been this again. There's another advert. I think it's an insurance company, if not a banking company, that makes it's like fear mongering, right? But yes, they are trying to sell their own, retirement plans and all of that. So it's young couples, singles, friends, and all of that. They're in like a restaurant setting, and all the waiters are elderly people. The chefs are elderly. So everyone who works at that restaurant is elderly, and everyone who's being served in that restaurant is, just below 45. All right. So these elder waiters and waitresses take orders, but they forget. They ask, "Did you ask for such and such and such? Can you please repeat that?" So it kind of like creates this as if they don't know what they are doing type of thing. The food that they get, the people, the patrons, is not what they ordered. The plates are falling on the floor, all these things, just so that they can relay the message that if you have not prepared for retirement, you might then have to go back to work, and work so that you can cover your retirement years. And I understand the marketing aspect of it. For me as well, it was a shocker. I was like, "Oh wow, hey, I need to get my retirement planning sorted. I don't want to be in that situation." But if you look at it, what is the opposite of that? Are we saying that people at that age should their only usefulness is in homes, and that's it, in like retirement villages and homes, and is that what we're saying?
Do you know
Or
that directly speaks to what the book is saying when he speaks
yeah.
about what does work really mean?
Absolutely.
And it all just boils down to you're still able to add value. It's a matter of
Mhm.
usefulness. It's like I might not be
True.
able to do what I could do then, but it doesn't mean I'm less useful. You spoke about
Mm.
how when you look at presidents and their age and the age that they arrive at that place, they are in what we would call retirement years in the traditional corporate
Yep.
setting, right? But the story about Harlan Sanders, right, who is the founder of KFC, that he was at the age of 65, tired of living on a government grant or a government pension. And he decided that he was going to fry chicken. And that's what became KFC. He was 75. He was 65, sorry, when that
Yeah.
happened. So I also believe that there's so much wisdom that you carry even the older you get. So when
Absolutely.
we view ourselves correctly and we view our ability to add value correctly, you can make good money within your retirement. I don't know how I feel about the advert you described, but I'd rather not comment. But I don't know how I feel about it because it's also
Yeah.
showing a limited view of work and what it means to work, right?
Mm.
I think looking forward to retirement becomes a thing if you spend your life doing work you don't love.
It becomes a
And Daniel,
destination.
the rabbi in this book,
Mm.
speaks about if you are in a situation and you're doing something that you don't love, he says, find something else. He's like,
Mm.
find something else. He's like, either you create it, but find it. Because you need that passion and that excitement to coincide
Mm.
so that you actually are able to create value. And I don't want to get into
Mm.
what I think about that and how it works, but I think we've said a lot,
Yeah.
I think it's a really great conversation that we've had. So I'm just going to wrap up here. I don't know if you've got some closing remarks.
Just
Um,
a closing remark. Just a closing remark. Just to touch on what you said. It's just the last couple of seconds of your
Closing
remark.
remarks.
It's the passion, the passion work. Doing what you love. I think that is the phrase that is being used these days. Um, you know, at times. So I think that's still part of commandment number 10. He also mentions that at times that doing what you love can be insufficient. Because I mean, I like visiting my family in KZN. How do I make money from that? And then another person can like something else or can love something else, but really would not really translate into it making money. And you find in chapter 10 of the commandments that he says that there are a lot of things that you grow to love. You love things that you're actually competent in and that you are efficient in. And in that way, it just gives you that acceleration, that momentum, that inspiration and motivation to continue doing what you are doing because you are actually good at it. But look at the things that you were actually not good at, and or rather, yeah, not good at, and how you learned how to be good at that thing and how it started to be embarrassing, and but after some years and after some time, it got to a point where now you are just efficient, effective, and impeccable when it comes to that. No one can be put side by side with you and come out victorious because you have put in the work, you have gone through the embarrassment, you have gone through the learning aspect of it. So the do what you love phrase as well has to be looked deeper than
Love
just
that.
on the surface level, as according to the rabbi. Yeah, I think that's it. So that we just don't go over as we did with Morgan Housel's book.
That's amazing, Linda. I definitely agree with you. I think for me, as a closing remark, and it's just to really bring it back, is
Sure.
just the role that education plays in
Yeah.
money creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say education, I don't just mean becoming proficient at what we want to become proficient at. I think
Mm-hmm.
really putting our minds and our hearts and applying ourselves in terms of how money actually works. You spoke about how we need to invest in understanding the craft of money. And I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, on a personal level, I think if you will learn that, it doesn't matter how the economy changes. It doesn't matter if
Mm-hmm.
we move from the industrial revolution to the 4IR or it's AI or it doesn't matter what happens. But if you
Mm-hmm.
understand the underlying principles in terms of how money works, you can learn to succeed in any kind of environment. You can learn to
Absolutely.
win in any economic environment because you understand that fundamentally it's about me adding value. And the
Mm-hmm.
question will always be, how can I add value to somebody else?
Mm.
It's always going to
Yes.
be about serving the next person. There's
Mm.
something that he said that really stood out to me. And when he speaks about how when you ask God for more money, when you want to make wealth, what you are actually asking for is an opportunity to make yourself useful to somebody else. And I
Mm.
think for me, at the base of it, the crux of this wealth creation, we're looking for an opportunity to be good people to other people. That's all it is. It's like, how can
Absolutely
you make someone else's life easier? And the
true.
money can be payment as a result. I think that's a game changing way of looking at money because a lot of the
Yeah.
times we think ministry, which, in the essence of the word ministry means serving, we think
Mm.
serving always has to be free, right? But
Mm.
the person who went
Sure.
as far as creating the
Mm.
t-shirt I'm wearing, creating the earphones, creating the paint that is painting the wall behind me, the person who created, the panels that are behind you is a person that was
Yeah.
doing it to serve you so that you
Mm-hmm.
can record well, so that that person was serving me. And so even if you have to sell a thing, I want you to know that selling is serving. And if you
Mm.
don't believe me when I say selling is serving, then I want you to consider what would you need to do to have your needs met if the person didn't create food today. So if you had to start from scratch to get your needs met in terms of food, what would you need to do? You'd need to own the land, you'd go till the ground, you'd go sow the seed, you'll have to mill it, you'll have to do all sorts of things just to find a loaf of bread. But today, you and
Imagine.
I can walk into Woolworths, you can walk into Pick and Pay, you can walk into Checkers and grab a loaf of bread. You know why?
Mm.
Because that person inconvenienced themselves so that I can have something conveniently. And so they served me. So it's not just ministry that is service, like in terms of
Absolutely.
like the church or working for free and volunteering.
Mm.
By virtue of somebody making something to make your life easier, that person has served you. And money is the receipt to show that you appreciate their service. So I think for me, that's the ultimate takeaway, the ultimate mindset shift in terms of this book. And so thank you all of you for tuning in, for watching. I hope that if you haven't read the book, this book review is going to encourage you to go and read the book. But if you have read the book, go ahead and comment. Let us know, how what stood out for you? What did you learn in terms of this book? What do you want to share with us? And going forward, you're more than welcome to suggest books that you might want to read, books that you want
Please.
us to review for you. Please
Yes.
give us a like, a comment. Just let us know, what do you want us to read? What do you want us to review? And we can do it together because we
Yeah.
are a community. And so go ahead, like and
Absolutely.
subscribe to our channel. We hope that you guys will share this video if you found it helpful. And then just follow us on our social media pages. The links will be in the description below. And we'll catch you guys again soon. From myself, it's bye-bye, Lindo. Thank you for
Cheers.
joining me.
Cheers.
I appreciate it.
Most
Alrighty,
appreciate
guys.
you.